Welcome back to my channel, everyone, and I welcome any new viewers to this channel. I like to remind my viewers that my videos are just little nuggets of information I want to put out there so that you can think a little deeper about some of the things that we've learned in the Christian religion and in our churches. I'm just putting information out there, and I welcome any feedback, any suggestion as to how I can maybe look at something that I put out there differently. Any comment at all that you want to put in there for me to help me better understand some of the things that I tell you, I just don't get it. So that's part of my reason for making my videos. Now, with that being said, I'm going to get into this video. And the title is Nimrod and the Land of Nimrod. So now this is where you find in the scriptures in the Bible, you'll find the name Nimrod is mentioned in Genesis 10:8-12, Chronicles 1 Chronicles 1:10, and you'll also find his name mentioned in Micah 5:6. And I will now go to the next slide. So let me get into this third slide. And it's just a summary of the previous verses that I referenced above. So as we can see, this is going to tell us all about Nimrod. It's going to say who his father was, which right there it says Cush was his father. Again, it repeats that he was a mighty hunter before the Lord. And now it also talks about the beginning of his kingdom. Now, from the slide here, you can see all the areas of the kingdom that it says Nimrod here, kingdom, and then it says the kingdom of Nimrod. So it includes all of this. Even the land of Shinar was under Nimrod's kingdom. So I find that quite interesting that this Nimrod person occupied all these areas, and he too was a descendant of Cush, who is a descendant of Ham. That's all interesting to me, because in the church settings, at least the history of the church that I belong to, it was always preached that the Hamites, the descendants of Ham, are Africans. They're all into the African continent. And I think sometimes they forget that Canaan was a Hamite who was not a part of what we call Africa today. Maybe ancient time, where Canaan settled was part of Africa, because I understand that it is on the African tectonic plates, but above it's separate. It's attached to Egypt, mind you, but people don't call that Africa. But my point is the Canaanites, who were Hamites, settled outside of what is now Africa. The other part I want to bring out is that Nimrod, who's also a descendant of Ham via Cush, his kingdom was in the southern part of what we call today the Middle East. So this Hamitic person and all the areas he found and all the people that were in there who were part of him and all that, settled that part of what we call Middle East now, the southern part. In Babylon, the Babylonian kingdom, the Babylonians were Hamitic peoples. They were not Shemites. Maybe I misunderstood all these years in the church, that I always thought the Babylonian era, all those Babylonian places and what we call Middle East was all the land of Shem. But to my not understanding now, it was not Shem's land. Shem had the northern part of it, but the southern part was occupied by Hamites. And I find it interesting that people don't want to say that. And going back to one of my videos where I do say that there is no curse of Ham, and I already proved that in the video, but here's another part of to enforce that understanding. Ham was supposed to be cursed, but yet this Nimrod person was able to find all these lands and have all this area as his land and his kingdom. He was a Hamite. He was a Hamite, so obviously he wasn't cursed from owning all of that. Now, I'm talking about Nimrod now, not the kingdom of Babylon. Nimrod. Because we know what happened with the kingdom of Babylon, and they did all kinds of stuff, which is just horrible, and that kingdom went down. So I'm not talking about the kingdom of Babylon in this video. I'm talking about Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. So now that I touch on the mighty hunter before the Lord, I want to talk about the fact that there's a few people who sort of think Nimrod could have been King Hammurabi. I don't know. I haven't done enough research to figure if I'm going to conclude that myself, but there is some scholars believe this. Now, I don't know if you know about King Hammurabi, but King Hammurabi, there's a thing called the Code of Hammurabi. And if you read the code, you would be shocked how it actually mirrors, not 100%, but it mirrors the laws of Moses almost 99%, which is fascinating to me. So I'm thinking, where did Hammurabi get this code of where did he get that from? He didn't just write this like by himself. Where did that come from? And another thing is, Hammurabi is older than Moses. He lived centuries before there was a Moses. So these are things I think deep about. And I'm thinking, something is strange with that. I can't look at this Nimrod person as a bad person. And if he was indeed Hammurabi, it would almost kind of make sense when it says he was mighty before the Lord, because when you say before the Lord, it didn't seem like it was a negative thing to me. Again, I'll go back to that. I don't think it was a negative thing. So could he have had any kind of association? I don't know. I'm just saying things, okay? I don't know if he had any connection to the Lord, but where did this code come from? If indeed he was Hammurabi. And if he wasn't Hammurabi, it's the same thing. I don't see anything negative about this man. And people associate him with the Tower of Babel. And yeah, the Tower of Babel went down as it should have. But all God said is, you guys, you people, you want to know too much about my business. So I'm gonna bring this tower down because you're not supposed to know that much. That didn't, and then God did it by confounding the language of those people. He didn't. I don't see him say anything about Nimrod doing it, where Nimrod had anything to do with it. And people read and weave in all kinds of story about this Nimrod guy, when who really knows? You know what I mean? So these are things I look at, and I'm looking for truth, and that's where I'm going to end this one. I don't know if Nimrod is a bad person. From what I'm reading, I don't see him as such. And if anyone wants to correct me, I am so open to that correction. But the main thing I want to highlight is in the modern day, no one would reference the area of Babylon or any of those regions as Hamitic, when in fact the ancient people who settled that land were indeed Hamites. I thank you for watching.